President, please be seated. The court is back in session. And representative for civil parties have the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, witness, for answering a question I'm going to put to you. I would like to get back to what you explained earlier, which is that when they came to take you, your wife and child were crying because generally when people were being taken to the pagoda, they would be executed. But for you, it was to be recruited as a militiaman. So do you agree with that?
No, I was told that I would become a soldier or a military man.
You also told us that you were very afraid when two soldiers had pointed their guns at you, whereas you were in the rice field, if I remember, because they thought that you were Cham.
Answer. They said I was Cham, and they pointed their guns at me, and then I heard people say I was Khmer, not Cham. I was so afraid at that time, and I was even, releasing myself in the field.
So had you been Cham, what would have happened to you?
President, Mr. Witness, do not need to respond to the question because it is a hypothetical question.
Pourquoi?
Why were you so afraid of being taken for a Cham?
At that time, I was ploughing the field with Cham workers. While I was collecting the grass and carrying it on my head, they pointed the guns at my neck, and I was so afraid at that time. I told them that I was not Cham, I was a Khmer person. After hearing that, they went away.
Can we say that back then it was very dangerous to be Cham?
Answer. If I had been a Cham person, I would have been in the same situation as Cham people had.
Excuse-moi.
We recalled earlier the people that you knew, the people that you saw enter the pagoda, and among these people there was your adopted brother. I'm looking for his name now. There was your cousin as well, and you also said that you thought that they had been executed. Were these people thieves? Were these people murderers? Would that warrant their execution?
Witness. That person was an innocent one. He was not a part of the thief group.
Alors,
So, why, according to you, were these people taken away to be executed? Entire families, such as people from your family, Tol and Lim Soon, your cousin Deus, you are, also with children, if they were not criminals, why were they taken then to the pagoda?
President, please do not respond to that question because the witness is not entitled to draw any conclusion.
merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to know if the witness saw people coming out of the pagoda since he saw people coming into the pagoda.
Answer. Later on, I was not staying in the village. I no longer stayed in my house. I was reassigned to work in the forest, growing pumpkins and other vegetables. I was working in a cooperative and I would return home once a month. I have no idea whether the prisoners were released from that center afterwards.
Quand vous...
When you were eating in the communal hall next to the pagoda, did you see supplies coming in for the prisoners? For example, would they bring in meat and vegetables and rice since they brought in prisoners?
Answer. No, I have never seen it. No, I have never seen.
Quand on est venu...
When you were recruited, could you have refused to become a longsword person? What would have happened if you had refused to join the longsword unit?
President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You have the floor now, Counsel Antaguisse.
Yes, Mr. President, I object to the second part of this question. No problem regarding the first part, but the second part, yes, I do have an issue.
President, the objection is right. A witness is not entitled to respond to a hypothetical question. Counsel for civil parties, please make your question simple and short so that the witness can understand and provide the right responses. There is no benefit to contribute to the truth if the questions are too complicated.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I will rephrase my question. Thank you, Mr. President. So as I said, I will rephrase my question in simpler terms. So, did you have the possibility of refusing to become a member of the longsword unit when they came to look for you?
Answer. I was reassigned to go and harvest rice. I was not part of the longsword group, but I was staying close to that group. And at that time, I was tasked with harvesting rice. I was not included in that so-called longsword group.
ហើយបើខ្ញុំ
I would have died if I refused to go harvest rice. During that regime, it was a dictatorship, said the witness, and I would have been killed if I refused the assignment.
Est-ce que
Did you wear the black uniform?
ខ្ញុំ
Answer. I wore normal clothes. Sometimes I wore black clothes, and on some occasion I would wear blue or light blue clothes.
quand vous habitez
When you were living in the same region, because you apparently lived always in the same region, and there were many Cham people in the villages there, were the Chams richer than the other Cambodians?
Answer. What are you asking? You want to know whether Cham people at the time were well off?
Oui.
Yes, I want to know if the Cham were rather wealthier than the other people in the villages.
Answer. I have no idea whether Cham people are better off in terms of wealth. I did not know Cham people at the time. I did not know whether they had better living condition than Khmer people at the time.
Mais quand
But when you were young, in the villages it was already possible to identify the Cham people because the women had long hair and they wore headscarves and they didn't speak the same language. So in the village, you obviously met Cham people.
សាកតែមក
President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You have the floor now, Counsel Antaguise.
Yes, I have a problem regarding the way the questions are put. Before explaining how he was able to recognize Cham people, maybe it would have been better to have the witness speak about how it was possible to recognize Cham people. So, in order to allow the witness to explain that to us, and not the counsel.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, it's not the same question. I did not ask the witness how it was possible to identify the Cham. We already spoke about that in the past. I was putting another question to him, which is, were there already Cham people in his village, and if he knew them, because they obviously were clearly identifiable.
President, Mr. Witness, you are instructed to give the response to this question. Witness. There were no Cham people in my village before the Khmer Rouge period. I had not known any Cham people before that time because the Cham people were living in a village different from mine.
est-ce que les...
So, the Cham people who came into your village, did they arrive as refugees from other regions or maybe even as refugees coming from Phnom Penh?
ខ្ញុំបានអត់ដឹង
Answer. I do not know whether they were from Phnom Penh or from elsewhere. Counsel Kung Som On. So I would like to suggest a lawyer for civil parties to specify the time period. It is not clear to the witness in Khmer.
Je remercie.
I thank the defense lawyers for explaining to me how I should put questions, but I consider that I have full freedom to put questions the way I think about them, and my references are very specific. In certain cases, before or after the decay regime. And the witness answered to us that there were no Chams in his village before and that they were in another village. So I'm going to put another question to him. After the capture of Kompong Cham, were you worried to see new refugees arrive in your village?
Answer. No worry for me at that time. I did not know at the time why they were sent into my village, so I had no worries.
You said to us that during the decay regime, life was very difficult for you and that you practically had nothing to eat. So didn't you think that these Cham refugees who were arriving on top of the others were also going to eat up the rice that was there, the little food that you had? Did this somehow concern you?
Answer. I had no worries at that time. I was under the regime's hands, and I was not the one who organized the food supply or anything at all at that time. So it depended on them, the regime leadership.
Pourquoi?
Why then were you so afraid when the militiamen thought that you were Cham?
Witness, I could not get your question about Cham people that I was afraid of, so could you ask it again?
Non, je n'ai pas dit que...
No, I did not say you were afraid of the Cham. I said that you were very afraid when the guards pointed their machine guns at you, thinking that you were Cham. So why were you so afraid then?
Answer. If they confused me with a Cham person, I would have been killed. I would be killed if they thought I was Cham.
Je veux
So now I would like to get back to your cousin who you saw was taken away to the pagoda when you were in the communal hall. You also saw Son Tol, your adopted brother, Lim Strung, your cousin, and their families and their children, and another cousin by the name of Yuhor being taken away. So were they chum?
Answer. They were Khmer people.
Alors, pourquoi
So why were they then taken away to the pagoda, where you said that they never returned?
Witness, I do not get your question, counsel.
Pourquoi
Why were they taken away to the pagoda if they were not chum?
Answer. I do not know, counsel. I do not know why they were arrested. I was shocked and surprised to see my relatives were arrested. I do not know why.
vous avez vu
You also saw other families with women and children coming into the pagoda. So, was it possible to know for sure that they were cham?
Answer. While I was having meal, I noticed there were Khmer people. My correction, I was having watery gruel at that time. Khmer people, I would see Khmer people being walked.
vous avez vu
You saw, therefore, Khmer people and Cham people come into the pagoda, and you knew that they had been executed in the pagoda.
Counsel, President, please wait, lawyer, witness, you may now proceed. Counsel Kung Sam-on. I have heard the statement of this witness earlier, and my objection is that the question is repetitive. Mr. President, could you please look at the time? It has been 20 minutes already from the beginning of the first session this afternoon, and I may have additional time to put question to this witness. President, yes, it is now time. So you have no more time, lawyer for civil party, because you spent 20 minutes already. President, you have no more time. Please be seated. Judge Lavange, do you have any questions to put to this witness? You may now proceed if you have questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Indeed, I have a few questions to put to this witness. I understood, witness, from your testimony that during the decay period, you were threatened twice with weapons. The first time, or once, I don't know if it's in a chronological order, because you were suspected of being Cham. And you said that there were other Cham people who were working with you on that day. So can you tell us when this happened and where this happened and who threatened you?
Answer. The work site was located at Spin-O Gandao. I was ploughing the field at that work site. I have told the chamber already. I was assigned to harvest the grass and then brought the grass for the cows to eat. At that particular point in time, they pointed the gun at me and asked whether I was Jam. I replied, I was a Khmer person, and after hearing this, they went away. I could not even see clearly those persons' faces at that time.
Vous n'avez pas vu.
You did not see these people's faces, but did you inform yourself to know who these people were?
Answer. I do not know who they were. They were young children.
J'ai bien compris.
I understood that, but when you're threatened with a gun, I think that it's legitimate to try to understand who is threatening you. Did you ask any questions? Did you try to understand or to know who had threatened you with a gun?
ខ្ញុំអត់បានសួរ
Answer. I did not ask them at the time. They went away very quickly after I told them.
Bien.
Okay, but you were not alone in this field. So did you ask the people around you if they had recognized the young people who were bearing those weapons? Did you ask any questions, or did you? This didn't really matter at all for you.
តន់មក
A witness. The interpreter could not hear the full answer from the witness.
ខ្ញុំ
Witness. I did not ask my co-workers at that time because my co-workers were coming late behind me, and I was tending cows under the tamarind tree, so I was there alone while I was threatened with the guns.
Witness, if I understood well what you said that there were chums on that day in the field. So what happened to the chums on that day who were with you in the field?
Answer. Yes, in fact, there were Cham people working with me, but they were harvesting grass at that time. They did not come at the same time as me when I was there and threatened.
Qu'est-ce qui leur est arrivé?
What happened to them? Did these chums, who were apparently genuine chums, endure anything? Did anything happen to them?
ខ្ញុំដើរ
Later on, I left the place where the cows was under the tree. Cham people were arrested at the bridge. It was about over 100 meters away from where I was harvesting the grass. There were Cham people, there were Khmer people working together.
Donc les chams ont été arrêtés.
So the chums were arrested. How many of them were arrested? And when were they arrested?
គេចាប់នៅពេល
Answer. They were arrested after lunch, perhaps after 12 p.m.
Je ne vous demande pas à quel moment dans la journée.
I am not asking at what time of the day. I'm asking during what period. Was it when the Otra Kun Pagoda was converted into a security center? Was it in 1975, 1976, or 1977? Was it shortly after the end of the Democratic Kampuchea regime? When was that?
I cannot recall it. I do not know as to which year that happened. I apologize, Your Honor, I cannot recall it.
Eh bien, je vais vous demander de faire des efforts, monsieur.
Very well. I will insist that you make an effort, sir, because we need specific information here. You said that when you were arrested, they took you for a charm, and you told them that you were not a charm. You also said that other persons who were present did say that you were Khmer. So when you say that you were alone, it is inconsistent with your prior statements. Tell me, yes or no, were there other persons with you, close to you, when you were threatened with a weapon?
It was the group that came to arrest me, and that's what they said. President Council Kong Sam On, you have the floor. Kong Sam On. I listened to the summary provided by Judge Laverne that the witness was asked whether he was jam, and that he replied that he was a jam. He was not a jam. However, through what I have heard so far, no other witness ever said about them being a Khmer person. And to my understanding, it was him who actually answered the question put to him by those who made the arrest. President, you can note down the response by the witness, and you can ask for clarification later when it is your turn. I think this is a standing practice in this court. And Judge 11, you may continue. Interrupt Counsel Kong Sam On. Your Honor, this is a summary of the fact, and if it is not proper, it may mislead the witness. President, even if that is the case, you should note it down, and when it is your turn, you can seek clarification from the witness.
Bien. Je précise aussi que
Very well. Let me also point out that we have the record, and it would enable us to ascertain what is stated by the witness. Mr. Witness, at the time of the events, you had already been enlisted as a soldier, or rather as a militiaman. What was your status at the time? Were you an ordinary citizen?
At that time, I was an ordinary civilian.
bien. Donc,
Very well. At the time, you said you were working at Pin O Kandal, if I noted it correctly. How far was that from the Wat Otrakun Pagoda or Sambo? What was the distance?
From Sambu Meha village to Ogandao, the distance was less than 20 kilometers. However, it was over 10 kilometers.
à ce moment-là, quel était votre...
At the time, what was your domicile? Where were you residing?
Cambodia.
My house was located in Cambodia.
Je n'ai pas très bien compris.
I haven't quite understood the different places of residence you may have had. You said at a point in time that you had to leave your house at Sambo Met. And you said that you went to PM Chikong. When did you go to PM Chikang?
My apology, Your Honor. After 1979, due to the security presence in Otrokun, and after I crossed the river from the other side, that is after my visit to my family and my children, I heard a rumor that the Pol Pot group re-entered the area. For that reason, I relocated my family to PMT Kong, and that happened in 1979. However, we only stayed for a few nights during that period. And in 1977, we were relocated once. However, the relocation area was not far from my original residence. It was about 700 meters only. And at that time, I was sick for a few months.
Donc, si je comprends bien,
So if I understood you correctly, throughout the entire period of democratic Kampuchea, your place of residence had always been in Sambo Mea's commune. Today, you are no longer resident in that commune. Since when have you stopped residing in that commune?
សប្តាហ៍
At present, I'm living in Sambumia. That is in Sambumia village.
le deuxième épisode où vous êtes retrouvé,
Regarding the second episode in which you found yourself threatened by people with a weapon as they tried to enlist you forcibly, you said in the record of your interview that you were a member of the Long Sword group. And today you are telling us that you are not a member of that group. What is the truth?
I was not part of the Longsword group. However, I stayed near the Longsword group. I only stayed there for 2 months, and then I was dissolved due to my not so good biography, since about 20 of my family relatives had been smashed. So I stayed there for about 2 months. Then I was resent to Kohtoj. That's when I just said, when I had to cross the river to live at the other side, and I remained there until the fall of the regime in 1979.
pourquoi vous retire-t-on d'un groupe si vous ne faites pas partie de ce groupe?
Why would they withdraw you from a group if you are not a member of that group?
Vous dites, je ne fais pas partie du groupe des longues épées.
You say that I wasn't a member of the Longsword group, yet I lived with them for 2 months, and subsequently I was withdrawn from the group. If you were withdrawn from the group, it means that you were a member of the group. Or am I mistaken?
គេដកនោះ
I was withdrawn from the group because of my tainted background that some of my relatives have been smashed. For that reason, I was not allowed to stay at the rice band anymore, and I was relocated to work in the rice fields.
Monsieur, on vous retire?
Sir, you were withdrawn from which group?
Đó, pi
I was withdrawn from the task that I was assigned to guard the rice band and reassigned to plough the rice fields at the cooperative at the Koto.
Et quand vous montez la garde,
And when you stood guard at the warehouse, you did so in what capacity? You were not an ordinary citizen. In what capacity were you standing guard there?
ឋានៈ
I was an ordinary civilian. I did not have any authority over the rice band. If they came to get the rice supply, they did it among themselves. I did not have any control over it.
donc un simple citoyen
So, a simple citizen tasked with standing guard. What was your exact role, sir?
ជាជាប់
I was an ordinary civilian.
un civil ordinaire qui
An ordinary civilian, member of an unknown group, who was withdrawn subsequently, because from what you are saying, you are a member of an ordinary group of civilians.
I was withdrawn from carrying out the task at the task of guarding the rice band, not from being a member of the long-sought group.
Bien, revenons.
Very well. Let us return to the second incident in which you were threatened with a weapon and you were told to join a group. What were you asked to do exactly?
ការគេ
When the gun was pointed at me, it was by the time that I was ordered to become a soldier. Next morning, they came to take my biography. They asked me to detail all the numbers of my relatives, close and distance. And after that, they walked away. They did not say anything much. After they took down my biography, they left.
On vous a demandé quoi?
What were you asked to do? Which group did they ask and to do what? This morning, I heard you say that you were requested to go and work in the rice farm. Is that what I should understand? And you found yourself being threatened with a weapon because they wanted you to go and work in the rice farm?
Before I was walked by the people, I was actually working in a pond nearby the village, and then they pointed the gun at me.
Bien, alors revenons à ce moment.
Very well. Let us go back to that point when they pointed a gun at you. And after pointing the gun at you, they wanted you to do what? To become a soldier to do what?
No, they did not say anything. They said that they wanted me to be a soldier.
Et donc, pour vous demander si vous voulez bien,
And in order to ask whether you should become a soldier or not, they pointed a gun at you. Why?
Monsieur, en général, on pointe les fusils sur...
Sir, generally, guns are pointed at people who are to be arrested. Did they also try to arrest you on that day?
They brought me to the commune and left me there overnight. And next morning, they questioned me about my biography.
Qui sont ces ils?
When you say they, who are you referring to? Who led you to the commune? Who put questions to you regarding your biography?
Est-ce que ces personnes appartenaient au groupe?
Were those persons members of the Long Sword group?
No, they belonged to the Southwest group, and the person who questioned me was from the district.
Est-ce que vous vous souvenez qui étaient les responsables
Do you know who were the officials of Pim Chikang commune?
I do not know the commune chief.
Est-ce que le nom de FIP vous dit quelque chose?
Does the name Phip mean anything to you? A woman called Pete. P-H-E-A-P. And who was the wife of a person called Khan. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yes, I heard of the name, but I never saw the person. I also heard of the name of that man, but I never saw him.
Bien, revenons.
Very well. Let us go back to the meal you're having in the canteen at Sambo Mias. Would you say that you had your meals in that canteen throughout the period of democratic Kampuchea?
Yes, I actually had my meal there at the dining hall throughout the period of the regime.
Alors, si j'ai bien compris,
Now, if I properly understood what you said this morning, you said that you simply took note of the arrest of 2 or 3 persons on 2 or 3 occasions, accompanied by some children, aside from the arrest of members of your family. Is that indeed what you want us to understand from your testimony, or there were more arrests?
What you have just said is correct.
est-ce qu'il vous arrivait, monsieur, quand vous déjeuniez,
Mr. Witness, while you were eating at the Sambo Mia's canteen, were you bothered by nauseating smells?
No, I was not, because where I was rather far from the pagoda compound.
vous pouvez nous rappeler où était située la cantine?
Can you tell us where the canteen was located in relation to the pagoda?
The dining hall was located near the road within the vicinity of the river bank, and from my estimation it was about 400 to 500 meters from the pagoda.
Eh bien, peut-être que Maître Sona...
Very well. Perhaps Mr. Sonarun will cross-check that in the transcript, but I believe I heard you say it was about 50 meters from the pagoda this morning. Perhaps I was wrong.
Je voudrais également revenir sur
I would like to put some questions to you regarding what you told the co-investigating judges when they interviewed you. You made mention of persons who were transported by boat and who were prisoners and who were tied up. This morning, I believe I heard you say that you no longer recalled having seen boats and prisoners arrive at Sambo Mias. What exactly do you recall regarding prisoners and boats?
I do not know about people being transported by boats. What I knew was that I saw people being walked on the road, but I never saw people transported by boats.
document E3,
Document E3/5257, ERN in French, 0034 26 66 to 67, ERN in English, 00 25 10 16, ERN in Khmer, 00 24 31 05. Question: did you see people being arrested often? Answer: yes, sometimes no. Question: how many times did you see prisoners taken off boats? Answer: once. Question: how did you know they were prisoners? Answer: they talked about it in the dining hall. Question: did those people have their arms tied? Answer: yes, they were tied. Question: how were they tied? Answer: their arms were tied behind them. Question: were they men, women, or children? Answer: there were men, women, and children. Question: were there any small children? Answer: yes, there were small children as well. All the people in that area saw this because it was mealtime and there were hundreds of people there. Question: when you saw those prisoners, were there any charm? Answer: I don't know. I would like to know whether there were hundreds of people eating at the Sambo Mia's dining hall or hundreds of prisoners.
At the dining hall where I had a meal, there were about 100 people who had meal there.
et parmi ces personnes, est-ce
And were there any security guards among those people? I mean, security guards working at the Wat Trakon Pagoda.
No, there was none.
est-ce que vous connaissiez des membres
Did you know any security officers from the Wat Trakon Pagoda?
No, I did not.
Est-ce que vous connaissiez un des
Did you know a person by the name Men who apparently resided at Sambo Mias?
The name Moon does not ring a bell.
Bien, eh bien, je crois.
Very well, I don't think I have any further questions for you, Mr. Witness.
President, thank you. The chamber now hands the floor to Councillor Copper, who wishes to provide a submission in response to the submission by the co-prosecutors requesting to hear new witnesses. That is a document submitted by the co-prosecutor yesterday. I refer to document E366. Councillor Copper, do you have the chance to do so?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd be very happy to do so. However, I myself only have 5 minutes of questions to the witness. I believe, if I'm wrong, I'll be mistaken surely. The accused team has also not many questions. So I think it would make more sense if I finish my questions and then have the witness go, and then I will come with my submissions. It's also maybe better for the witness.
President, thank you for the information, and of course we grant you your request. You may proceed now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. As I said, I only have very few questions for you. Let me first start with the very last question that was put to you by Judge Laverne about a man called Moon. You said you had not heard of such a person with that name. Can you think a little bit more about Moon, possibly a security guard at Wat Otrakun? Moon, does that ring a bell?
The name Moon does not ring a bell at all, because I did not go there, so I did not know him.
No problem, Mr. Witness. Earlier, you were also asked a question about something that Seng Sroon had testified to. You called Seng Sroon in your answer a soldier. Do you know whether Seng Sroon was also a palm tree climber?
I do not know about that, and actually at that time I had not known him yet. He worked separately from where I worked. I only got married at that time, and Seng Sroon never stayed at home because he was a soldier.
Just to be sure, I'm asking you a question about early 1977. Do you know perhaps whether Seng Sroon at that time was a member of a palm tree climbers unit working close by Wat Otrakun?
I was not aware that he climbed palm trees. And as you understand, climbing a palm tree was a different task from plowing the field, which was what I did.
My next question, Mr. Witness, is something that you said in your statement, English page 4, English your N00251015, French 00342665, and Khmer 00243101. You said in answer to the question as follows. The question is, Why was this area, where your house was, why was this area a forbidden area used for security? And then you answer, because the Otagun Pagoda was used as security office. And just a bit before, you said they didn't allow people to live in the village. Can you explain that a little bit? Was there some kind of security parameter around Wat Otakun where people or villagers were not allowed to go into?
If you talk in terms of the premise of the pagoda, which stretches for about 700 to 800 meters.
So there was a perimeter of 700 to 800 meters around the pagoda where people were not allowed to come. But was there an extra perimeter in such a way that they, as you said, did not allow people to live in the village?
Do you mean outside the premise of the pagoda? If you talk about the external parameter of the pagoda, it means actually the parameter of the premise of the pagoda reached the riverbank, and that area was also restricted. So allow me to clarify. To the north of the pagoda was the river front, and to the south it was a pond.
But what was the width and the length of the total perimeter around the pagoda? Was that about 800 meters in length and in width? Or can you be a little more specific as to what distance people were not allowed to approach the pagoda?
Answer. I cannot tell you about that matter. I am not able to tell you. All I know was that from the river bank up to the compound of the pagoda, that area was not allowed to walk or trespass into.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Last question. You have been answering some questions already in relation to the arrests of your adopted brother Tol and Lim Sroon. You also mentioned one of your cousins, Yu Hao. And you said that those three family members were arrested along with their entire families. Can you describe that a little bit for me? How did you know they were arrested with their entire families?
Well, Lim Sroon was the 17th April person. Hao was a base person. As for Tol was also the 17th April person rather. And my aunt and uncle were base people.
And just to be clear, they weren't Cham, they were Khmer, is that correct?
Answer. While I was having meal, I saw them.
But my question was, they weren't Cham, is that correct? They were Khmer like you.
Bà.
Answer. Yes, you are right.
And how many children were arrested with, together with Tol, Lim Sroon, and Yu Hao?
Answer. Yu Hao was alone at that time. Lim Sroon came with 8 children at that time, and Tol had 8 children with him at that time. My aunt had 6 children at that time. My uncle had 7 children. As for Ain, they had 4 children at that time coming with them.
អានឹងខាងឪពុកខ្ញុំនៅ
They were related to my parents' side, and I cannot recall relatives of my mother's side.
And all those children that you refer to were also not Cham children, is that correct?
Answer. Yes, that is correct.
Now you said that they were arrested. Is it also possible that they were part of an evacuation from one place to another?
Answer. They were arrested from their base areas.
គាត់នៅឃុំកោ
They were living in Angkoban village where they were arrested.
Have you ever heard later, maybe after 79, why these family members with their wives and children had been arrested? What was the reason for their arrest?
Answer. I do not know about that.
Were there other occasions or other circumstances during which you saw Khmer people being arrested, including their family members, including children?
Answer. I cannot give you the prediction. I was staying in my house, so I did not know what else happened at that time. After the regime fell, I came back to my home village. During the regime, I was assigned to grow vegetable and plow the field. I had to be responsible for cattle tied to 2 yokes, and I did not know what happened besides my work.
My last question, Mr. Witness, assuming for a second that you were right in what you said you saw, is it correct that when Khmer people were arrested, it could happen also that they were arrested together with their spouses and their children? And that it wasn't something typically for the arrest of Cham?
President, please hold on, Mr. Whitney. You may now proceed. International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Your Honour, I think it's a slightly unfair question because the witness said previously that he was unable to say whether or not Khmer people and their families were arrested. So it's really based on a premise that the witness hasn't put forward.
If I may respond, Mr. President, I think the premise of the questions of the prosecution today was that he himself was a very active member of the Longsword militia. That's true or not, I think based on his experience and his knowledge of the particular period, I should be able to ask this question.
Your Honour, the only problem with that is that he'd answered it in the previous question, saying that he was unaware of seeing other Khmer families and children other than the ones that he knew.
President, the objection by the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor is overruled. Mr. Witness, if you recall the last question put to you by Counsel Kope, you can now provide your response. And if not, you can ask the counsel to repeat the last question for you. Do you recall the last question, Mr. Witness? Witness, I cannot recall it, Mr. President.
Let me repeat it for you, Mr. Witness. I just asked you some questions about the arrests of close family members. You confirmed that they were arrested in the company of their spouses and children. Have you ever seen other arrests of Khmer men together with their spouses and children? And do you know whether this was something that in your period could also happen to Khmer and not typically to Cham families?
Answer. I have never seen my family were arrested together with the entire members. As I told the court earlier, I was assigned to plow the field on another side of the river. I never spent time at my house in the village. President. Well, it is now time for the short break. The chamber will take a short break from now until 3 p.m. Court officer, please find a proper room for the witness during the break time, and please invite the witness together with the duty counsel back into the courtroom at 3 o'clock. The court is now in recess.